Alright, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another stream. We started a little bit early, but hey, that's okay. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to another podcast. Tonight's podcast, we're gonna talk about some of the ghost stories and hauntings that have happened around and on Christmas. So let's get started with that. Before we jump into that, though, we have multiple um, things we're going to try to film next week. We have many different spots and locations that we want to go to and film. We're gonna be doing a couple walkthroughs. Gonna do probably 3 or 4 full-on investigations next week. Probably 3 to 4 investigations, and then whatever videos left after that we film will probably be just walkthroughs and exploration videos. So yeah, that's the plan for next week. It's gonna be multiple, probably most everyday filming next week. Probably gonna spend every day filming as far as I know, because I want to do at least 3 to 4 full-on investigations, and then whatever else we can find, we'll film abandoned house walkthroughs, and just regular exploration videos. So, with that being said, we're gonna jump right on into the topic of tonight's podcast, which is going to be the ghost stories that have happened around or on Christmas Day. I've found quite a bit that's actually taking place on Christmas. It's actually kind of interesting. So we're going to start off with this first site right here, which is the 12 classic Christmas ghost stories. Some of these are books. So if they're books, I'll just tell you basically the background of the books, and some of them are actual stories. So starting off with number 1 by Robert Louis Stevenson is Markheim, a chilling moral fable that is frequently included in Christmas anthologies. Stevenson's Markheim is less a ghost story and more a prosaic fantasy of a man encountering his inner demons. The action starts right away as the protagonist enters the pawn shop of a wealthy man and quickly murders him. It is Christmas Eve, and our anti-hero is left alone with the body of a man he slew because he felt that he had the right to do so in order to buy a present for his girl. Surrounded by mirrors and clocks, he stews by himself for some time, but is startled to hear someone coming down the stairs. At first frightened, he is later mystified to see a form which resembles himself, but which is very clearly a denizen come to school its new disciple in the arts of evil. Wow. Number 11 is The Other Door. Margaret O'Fallon has a small corpus of ghost stories, some half a dozen, but they make up for their small numbers by being very long and almost exclusively masterpieces. Her crowning achievement remains one of the undisputed exemplars of the Victorian ghost story The Other Door. Set during a frosty North Country winter, this emotional ghost story tells of a father whose son has become mortally ill after encountering the ghost of a child. Wailing at the ruins of the door he was evicted from in life, desperate to exorcise the ghost and to save his ailing child, the father enlists his valet, a former soldier, to use bravery. but is rebuffed and his servant is bedridden and puts in his notice. He turns to an aesthetic doctor to use the powers of science, but the arrogant physician is astonished. His last resort is one which doesn't appear. This uncommon supernatural tale is simultaneously chilling and heartbreaking. Number 10 is Jerry Bundler. Jerry Bundler, the malevolent spirit of a highwayman who was betrayed to the king's men and who hanged himself in one of the upper rooms. The party of men seemed divided among the terrified, the skeptical, and the thoughtful. One of the skeptics is amused by the palatable tale, fear of one of the terrified, and decides to make use of a Gorian costume he has upstairs. Deciding as the spectre, its ending is just as bleak and devastating. Number 9 is a shadow. An old man who accidentally made the companion of a party of rich girls who have bunkered in front of a fire during a Christmas blizzard. They are. Ugh, sorry. Oh, I got choked. I choked up right there. Ooh. All right. Sitting in front of a fire during a Christmas blizzard. They are sharing clinched ghost stories when one of them demands one from their shy elder Corsair. She tells the tale of how she was in love with her best friend's husband and how, when her friend was bedridden during a troubled pregnancy, she and the husband grew closer. One night, she finds herself followed by an opaque shadow, one which then returns to haunt the husband and which becomes a constant tormentor. When the friend dies soon after childbirth, she sees it at her funeral, then later when he dies, but most terrible of all, she has seen it tonight, and one of the girls has a secret connection to the story. Wow. Number 8 is How Fear Departed from the Long Gallery. It tells a surprisingly emotional story about a woman who encounters a ghost who is known to frighten the people who witness it to death. Running along the lines of 50 Berkeley Square phantoms faced with her horrible fate, the girl pleads with her ghoulish visitor for her life, and the ending is uncommonly psychological and touched with the pathos of the unwanted ghosts. Number 7, Dracula's Quest. His ostensible prelude to Dracula's stews and wintry horror, passing through a German graveyard at night, the young protagonist encounters the tomb of a vampiress and in a mounting series of macabre horrors, including a Lovecraftian bolt of cleansing lightning, finding himself at the mercy of a pack of wolves. Upon escaping, he encounters a bizarre communication from the Count warning him to beware of dangers from snow and wolves at night. Though it takes place on the Walpurgis not, the setting is frigidly fitting for Yuletide. Number 6 is The Wondersmith. Was the night before Christmas, and an evil syndicate bent on the world domination of possessing Christmas toys with evil spirits, arming them with poison needles, and preparing to sell them, only to have the little tots of New York City wake up to their soldiers and bears plunging envenomed wires into their skin. Mm. Bizarre, farsighted, and chilling, though an incy bit of horror. Wow. Number 5 is the Phantom Coach, one of the more popular ones that I've read. Lost in the grim snowy moors of northern England, a hapless hunter is on the brink of death when he is directed to the warm cabin of a bitter alchemist, whose theories on the unknown spike his imagination before setting off once more, this time in hopes of encountering the coach set to come their direction. The title of the story allows for little subtlety. He does find a coach thundering down a frosty highway, and he does halt it and manage to gain entrance to its interior. But what lurks within the interior might send him rushing back into the black winter night. Guys, I just got confirmation. Got to send in a deposit next week in Mechanicsville, Virginia, March 19th. Once I send in the deposit next week, March 19th, we will be heading to the cabin on 360 in Mechanicsville, Virginia. Just got the confirmation saying the date's available and to send in the deposit next week to reserve the date. Once I send in the deposit, we're heading to the cabin on 360 March 19th in Mechanicsville, Virginia. What's up, bud? Number 4, The Festival in the Vault. A great lover of Christmas time, Lovecraft committed to paper one of the most chilling depictions of an eldritch celebration of the Yuletide, the festival, returning to his ancestral town in order to honor a summons from distant family. What's up, Vodka? The protagonist finds himself partaking in a Christmas party that few would care to join or remember. Lumbering alongside his ostensible family members whose pulpy flesh sends his own crawling, the final leaves him with several questions, including whether one can be related to a 6-foot-tall, two-legged grave worm. Wow, okay. In another wintry tale, a cynical New England undertaker known for bungling his coffins when in drink accidentally locks himself inside a vault during a bitter winter night. His only chance of escaping is to stack his own shoddy coffins and attempt to squirm out of the loose transom. But he is not quite alone in the vault, and the incident which cripples him for life is a lesson in the virtues of solid craftsmanship and the ghoulish power of revenge. Number 3 is the story of a disappearance and then a reappearance. Okay. That don't really give much. So I'm going to skip that one. Going to number 2 is The Glamour of the Snow. This frosty treat from one of England's greatest writers of spook stories always leaves people shivering. It tells the story of a man on a ski trip who finds himself drawn away from society, attracted by the allure, the dazzling glamour of the snow. Increasingly dissatisfied by mankind, he finds unlikely company in the figure of a woman, silent but beautiful, who seems to love the snow as much as he. Undaunted by her silence and strange behavior, he chases her into the mountains one night where he learns her true nature. Okay. Number 1 is The Old Nurse's Story. One of the great Victorian ghost stories, this tale of ghostly children, the pain of guilt, and the fatal threat of becoming lost in the shifting snows of northern England. In midwinter is a certain pleaser. It is no pretty little tale. It concerns an old woman haunted by the ghost of her sister and young niece who perished in the snow one winter's night when she betrayed them to her violent father, told in flashback by the infamous nurse. It relates the then young nursemaid's harrowing attempt to save her little orphan girl from being lured into the snowbanks by the vision of another little girl, a little girl who leaves no prints in the white, bitter snow. Alright, that's that one. Now we're gonna head this one's only got like three stories. See, one here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this one's got 7. Alright, we'll start with number 1. Bring me a light. Snow White's stepmothers got nothing on the vengeful Lady Henrietta. The story details how her evil deeds poisoned her family home for generations. She paced to and from, turning and returning with savage, stealthy quickness. The day went and the night began. Her servant came to see if she were wanted and was sent away with a haughty negative. She is busy with some wicked thought, murmured the old woman. That ain't really a story, but there you go. The next one is the ghost summons. A doctor is hired to witness a man's final hours. Would you be willing to earn £1,000? £1,000 is where it seemed to burn my very ears. I should be thankful if I could do so, honestly. That ain't really a story. Okay. These ain't really stories, though. They're just talking about things. All right, we're going to skip that. We're going to skip those. Now we'll head into the history of festive ghost stories. Nightmare Before Christmas. Number 1. From the Pink Art Castle is the Creepy Crest. The Grand Picard Castle in Lothian, Scotland is an impressive pile dating from the 16th century. One famous story of the castle is of a beggar, Alexander Hamilton, who one night in the 17th century rapped on the door of the great house seeking food and shelter. Told to clear off, he cursed the family, and a few days later, the lady of the house and her daughter died of a mysterious illness. Hamilton was tried as a witch, brutally tortured, and executed in Edinburgh. His ghost is said to still haunt the old laird's mansion. At Pinkart on a cold, dark Christmas night in 1923, family and friends were gathered in the music room singing carols. A carved wooden family crest was witnessed by everyone to creakily, slowly lean forward away from the wall, pause, and then return back to its former position. Wow. Number 2 is the spooked servants of the Sandringham House. The royal's famous Norfolk bolt hole was once described as the most comfortable house in England. But at Christmas time, every year, ghosts are supposed to lurk about the corridors of the vast Victorian residence. This is said to begin at Christmas Eve and last for a few weeks, and in the 20th century included tales of classic poltergeist activity in the servants' areas of the house. Mysterious footsteps, self-closing doors, lights turning themselves on and off repeatedly. There was also said to be heavy breathing heard from empty rooms and service corridors, and Christmas cards found to have moved unaccountably. At one point, the servants were refusing to enter certain rooms alone, and a sinister phantom sack that breathed was said to have been by one footman. Both King George V and King George VI both died at Sandringham. Number 3 is Mom's Christmas Hike, Mattingly Hall. The Tudor Mattingly Hall near Cambridge is now a conference center, but was once the center of a vast estate owned by the prominent Hen family. Sir Francis Hen was an MP during Elizabeth I's reign. When expanding the hall, he knocked down a church in the nearby village of Histon to provide building materials. This was near 40 years after the death of his mother, Lady Ursula, who, according to legend, turned in her grave at the destruction of the church and has been reputed to haunt the hall ever since, her ghost stalking the corridors at night and wringing her hands in anguish. Every Christmas Eve, the ghost of Lady Ursula is said to walk between the hall and the church in Histon. Wow. Okay. Number 4 is Scared Stiff at 50 Berkeley Square. The Tower of London has often been described as the most haunted building in London, but what about the capital's most haunted house? For many years, that macabre accolade belonged to 50 Berkeley Square, an imposing Georgian townhouse in upmarket Mayfair. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the Grand Gaff was linked to mysterious death, with residents and guests at the house apparently seeing ghosts and then being found dead, mouths and eyes agape with frozen terror. One such encounter with a killer ghost occurred in 1887. It was Christmas Eve, and two sailors, Blunden and Martin, were on leave in London. They trawled the gloomy, foggy streets that cold evening, looking for lodgings. They happened upon 50 Berkeley Square and were pleased to find a room there for the night. The murderous haunted house has previously claimed a victim in the room in which they stayed. Blunden felt uneasy in the darkness and couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, he frantically woke up Martin in time to see a dark spirit looming towards them. Blunden went for a weapon, and the apparition darted towards him. Meanwhile, bleary-eyed Martin escaped to the street and found a bobby on the beat. The Navy man returned to the house with the cop, and to their horror, they saw Blunden at the bottom of the stairs, dead. His neck was broken, and his eyes and mouth were wide open as though he had died from fear. Wow. We only got 2 more on this one. Number 5, The Ghost at the Feast of Raynham Hall. In the remote depths of Norfolk, shrouded by tall trees, lies a manor house, Raynham Hall. In the chilly December of 1835, the house was full of guests and residents for the Christmas season. 2 of the party got a little more Yuletide spirit than they had bargained for one night. A Colonel Loftus and a Mr. Hawkins were engaged one evening in a long chess battle that went past midnight. On saying goodnight in the landing, the 2 men saw a strangely dressed woman standing by the bedroom door of the lady of the house. The woman appeared to be wearing a centuries-old brocade and coif, and walking along the hallway a little vanished. What's up, Rain? When Colonel Loftus encountered the phantom another night, he darted after her, coming face to face with a ghost that resembled a noble woman, but also unearthly, with a glow emitting from her and no eyes. When the colonel told the owners of the hall about the apparition, far from laughing, they simply stated that he'd seen the famous Brown Lady of Raynham, witnessed by many others, including author Captain Marryat. A famous 1936 photograph of the hall's grand staircase claims to show the notorious spectral lady. And finally, the last one on this page, number 6, The Ghostly Beggar Children of Bramber, Sussex. Bramber Castle in West Sussex was for centuries owned by the powerful de Bracy family, the Lords of Bramber. In the early 13th century, William the Fourth Lord of Bramber fell out with King John, which was a big mistake. John pursued William across England, Ireland, and Wales, seizing his lands and capturing his family. One version of the events that happened was that William's children were held as hostages by the king and were eventually starved to death in Windsor Castle. According to local legend, the ghosts of the children are said to stalk the roads of the village of Bramble on dark nights, dressed in rags and chasing and accosting passerbys for food. Village tradition has it that at Christmas time, the ghosts of the children, a boy and a girl, can also seem to be mournfully watching over the ruins of their former home at Bramber Castle. Wow. All right, that's that one. See if we can find any more. About the same ones I just read. All right, well, that was all of them that I could find. So I hope you guys enjoyed those ghost stories. And like I said earlier, if you guys weren't in here when I said it, I just got confirmation from a spot right up here, about 2 hours north of me in Mechanicsville, Virginia, called the Cabin on 360, where they do private investigations. Everything's haunted and whatnot. Contacted them about possibly setting up an investigation for next year. They just contacted me back. The date's available. All I got to do is send in a deposit for March 19th. Once I send in that deposit, March 19th, which is a Saturday night, we are heading to the Cabin on 360 in Mechanicsville, Virginia. I've hardly ever heard of this place, but I just happened to run across it on Facebook this morning and messaged them, and they got back to me like an hour and like, yes, we do investigations and whatnot. Just tell us what date, send in the deposit. All right, got my date picked. Now I just got to send in the deposit. Once I get the deposit sent in, they reserve the date for me. So March 19th is the planning date for going up there to do an investigation. The investigation is from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. So it's basically an overnight investigation. It's a 14-hour investigation. Overnight, we stay there overnight from 7 p.m. to 9 a.m. I cannot wait. I'm going to send in the deposit next week. So March 19th, we are heading to the Cabin on 360. But other than that, like I said, me and Nubs are going to be doing some more filming next week, some investigations, some more abandoned houses, walkthroughs, going to this abandoned tunnel. Probably going to try to do 3 or 4 full investigations, and then whatever else we can, we'll just do walkthroughs and exploration videos. But I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's stream on the ghost stories of Christmas. Hope you guys have a good Christmas. Merry Christmas to everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great Christmas. If I don't see you, I'll see you next week on some of these videos. Bye, guys.